Ask the streets.
Ask the streets. Ask the streets.
I like that one.
Nigga, you played that one.
You don't want smoke, get all white. Yeah, your girl knows. Geek all night, pop 'em like so. Plug phone lit, I guess he whipping yo. Loud black smoke. You don't want smoke, get all white. Yeah, your girl knows. Geek all night, pop 'em like so. Plug phone lit, I guess he whipping yo. Fresh head toe, stepping out, whoa. Walk it out, whoa. Yeah, I gotta go. Bitch, I'm like the stove. Yeah, they need more. Whipping need more. Boom, make you breathe slow.
Nigga, you
Name
played that
hold weight,
one.
I'm talking kilos. Damn, that's your bitch, I gave her Dino. If a nigga acting foul, we hit the free throw. I swear these niggas lying like a Leo. Loud pack smoke, you don't want smoke. Get all white, yeah, your girl knows. Geek all night, pop 'em like so. Plug phone lit, I guess he whipping yo. Loud pack smoke, you don't want smoke.
What's good, family? We back in the building with Brother Ed. We in Brother Ed Palace, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, you know, now we gonna be dealing with the debate between Zion Lexx and the brother Jabari. And we saw the one part that Zion Lexx posted about the debate. We saw the one particular part. And one part that I wanted to touch on, Brother Ed, was the part. Now, I know it's not necessarily a validated source with that clip of the elder, Dr. Ben, saying what he was saying about the commandments versus the 42 confessions, negative confessions. But it's pretty profound with an elder with that status to say that, though, right? To come and say that, though, that the confessions came from a commandment almost, you know what I mean? Sorry, where it would have been commandment first.
Well, it was a commandment from Ma'at, not a commandment from Yahweh or God,
right,
or anything like that. It was a commandment from the natural root. They try to attribute it to something else. It's like a play on words, like, you know, because Dr. Ben used the phraseology "I shall not," then they just took it and ran with it. But you can't show the 10 Commandments came before that. The Papyrus of Ani, which is dated at 1250 BCE. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't show a Hebrew document that comes before that. So it's just, they were cheering for nothing. Because Dr. Ben was a lifelong atheist. Dr. Ben didn't believe in that God. And Dr. Ben understood, if you're going to go in front of your deity when you're dead, mm-hmm, and say, hey, I have not done these things you told me not to do, of course somebody had to lay down the law first. The law has to be laid down first,
right,
before you can say or attest that I did not break your laws. So it was kind of like for people that don't understand, for people that don't study, you know, they were clapping and cheering. But I mean, those of us who know you can't plead innocent to something that hasn't been laid down already.
Right. And so I guess that was Zion Lexx's argument, to say that the commandment had been put out there first, to say don't do that. And then so I guess that's how it looks. But then so he didn't break. I don't know if Jabari broke down what you saying, as if those were commandments coming from Ma'at, not so versus coming from the God. So what did you think about the debate though overall?
I mean, it's kind of, at this point, it should be kind of a silly argument. I mean, it's just an end around, again, to try to prove your religion is real. To prove your history, your religion is real. In order to have like the saying goes, in order for my God to live, your God have to die. Mm-hmm. So in order for them to feel validated, they have to kill Africa, kill African history, and you don't really have to do that. We had great people in our history that was Christians, you know, that fought hard for us. They understood their history. You know, you had Marcus Garvey, who was a devout Catholic, mm-hmm, okay, but he was Pan-African. He was African first, right?
Right.
He was for us, but he didn't throw his history away just because he was a Catholic. You look at Chancellor Williams, who wrote one of the greatest books ever about the destruction of black civilization, and he was a devout Christian. Okay, he didn't have any problem separating history from his faith. Okay, and then you got Khalid Muhammad, who studied everything. You know, Khalid studied everything. He said, I'm a Muslim, but I know my roots.
Khalid was my favorite, I gotta say.
Yeah, and Khalid would be anywhere. He'd be at a Moor Science Temple, mm-hmm, he'd be in a synagogue, he'd be in a church, he'd be anywhere. You know, and he studied all them things, but he said he know his roots. He know his roots was in Africa. And so you got these people constantly trying to chip away at our history to validate their faith, and you don't really have to do that. You know, you can stay in your faith lane and stay out the history lane. But it just, the two things just don't go together. You can't prove that Abraham was real. You can't prove he walked out of Asia into Africa and walked out with 600,000 people. You can't prove that Abraham walked into Africa and brought technology and science into Africa. You cannot do it. And so just stay out that lane.
But is Sumer older than Egypt?
No. Sumer at best is a contemporary of Kemet. But as you study history, you'll see that when history is framed by one side, they frame it their way. So they want to cut Kemet off from the rest of Africa to make it seem like Kemet not part of Africa. Because growing up, we didn't think Egypt was in Africa. The way it's portrayed, looking at the Ten Commandments movies and all this stuff, we never thought that Egypt was in Africa. Okay, so we grew up like that. That's the brainwashing that we had, that Egypt was not part of Africa. And historically, when you see Breasted and Featherstone and Champollion, all these white Europeans going to Africa and start getting these artifacts, they describe the black Africans and then it's white Africans. So if you read them old books, they'll say the big blacks from the south, and then it was the white Africans that built up Egypt.
Right.
But see, what they don't understand is Kemet is the last of the great Nile Valley civilizations. And so that's why I'm playing this right here. This shows you where all the technology and stuff comes from the south. But we have an origin that starts at 150,000 BCE.
Okay.
Sumer, at best, you could take it back to 4,000. So it's easily demonstratable because at 15,000 years, climates are different. There's nobody in Sumer anyway. It's uninhabitable before about 5,000. Right. It's a swamp. Okay, so there's nobody there. Where did the people come from? And so you could look at the Nile Valley civilization that start in the Great Lakes region and it moves up. You can see the technology with the pottery, the metalworking, all these things that make a civilization come up from the south, and they develop it until it gets to culmination, which is Kemet. All right, you don't have those stages of development in Sumer. You don't see where it develops. In Kemet, you can see where they had pyramids and they fell down.
You see
the ones that they messed up.
Different stages.
Right.
Let's play Hebrews.
Wait, one more thing.
Okay.
Even if you go further south and further back in time, they were building the pyramids out of silk pyramids. Okay. And so those are the first pyramids. They were working up to this shape.
So let's play Hebrews advocate. What would be the proof point that Zion Lexx trying to get across by saying Sumer's older than Kemet?
Because if you put Sumer older than Kemet, then it validates the narrative that's in the Bible. Which is it's not only the biblical narrative, but it's the narrative of the Europeans who came in and tried to rewrite history in the first place. That the people, the technology, and the great civilization and the construction works you see in Kemet comes from people outside of Kemet. It came from Asia. It came from Europe. It came from everywhere except Africa. Okay, to take away our greatest achievements in history and put a white face on it. And so they playing into that because they want to prove they patriarch so bad that they'll kill our history to do it.
So what's up with this? Take it a little bit different then, because that connects to this Asiatic black man thing. Where that whole idea come from?
It comes from the religions again. Again, Abraham comes out of Ur and Chaldea in the book. That's in Asia. Okay, and so you're going to keep seeing this narrative over and over and over again with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All three of those religions had the same patriarch. It's Abraham.
Okay.
All three of them. This is how the story goes in the Abrahamic faith. It starts with the story of Noah. Noah has 3 sons. One is a white son, a black son, and a Shemitic son. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you got a black, white, and an Asiatic person. That's his sons, right?
Right.
Okay, Noah gets into it with his son. So Noah gets drunk or whatever. His son makes fun of him for being naked. Okay, Noah curses him and all of his descendants to be the servant of servants for the other 2 children. So in the beginning of the book, you are cursed to be the servant of servants to the European child of Noah and the Asiatic child of Noah. Okay, now the European son goes off. And then the sons go their separate ways, but the African is forever cursed to be the servant of servants for the other 2 races. And that's how it all starts. It's a whodunit, and then you trace it all the way back to that story, and that's where it comes from. All throughout that book, you cursed, you get murdered. Okay, not Noah. Moses marries an Ethiopian woman, and then he turns around and murders her whole village. You got God ordering him to go in there and kill whole towns of people. The women, the children, the animals.
Yeah, that's
okay?
Crazy.
And so it's always you on the losing end.
Yeah.
Okay? And you had a New Testament, Jesus come back, he don't lift the curse off you. He don't say, okay, now you equal with the other two. He don't say that. So
He perpetuate the idea.
Yeah, it's all fruit from the same poisonous tree, and it comes from that. And that's what it's designed for.
So dealing with that debate, the Zion Lexx brother Jabari debate, how do you feel about their debating skills? Let's start with Zion Lexx. How do you feel about the Zion Lexx debating skill?
I mean, it's not a debate when the person that you're debating is trying to. Only thing he's doing is looking for stuff to validate his belief. And so you're not really researching. You're not really a scholar if that's what you're doing. If you're just looking for something to validate your point, then it's not inductive reasoning and it's not deductive reasoning. So it's not a scientific approach. The methodology is poor, and then the product is poor because you come up with things and then it always get blew up. Every time you see these debates with the Hebrews and the African side, the African cats always blow them up. If not right then on the spot, it's the next day. Because it's hard to combat nonsense on the spot because you rocking the mic. You know what I'm saying? If you're good on the mic and you hyping the crowd up and you coming with nonsense, and then you really can't counter nonsense.
Right. So like what do you think about the fact that he got these the language? He can speak Hebrew fluently.
Well,
does that help him out? Does he know something? You think he'll have some type of information that Jabari wasn't privy to because of that language understanding?
Well, maybe, but you have to understand too, the same parallel that you can have with the Middle Natural, you can have with Hebrew. Nobody has ever heard anybody speak Hebrew. Nobody alive has ever heard anybody speak Hebrew.
Oh, so that's not what they're speaking in Israel right now?
No, because at the end of World War II, Hebrew was a dead language.
So nobody is not speaking Hebrew, even though he's
speaking a reconstruction of Hebrew as they think that it sounds. Just like we trying to reconstruct the Middle Natural and try to speak it. That's the same thing that the Europeans did at the end of World War II. Hebrew was a dead language. Nobody spoke Hebrew. Okay? And so they reconstructed the language, as part of building up their culture. And that's what we trying to do, build up our culture with our classical African language, just like they tried to build it with their classical Hebrew language. But he's not speaking Hebrew. He's speaking what he thinks is Hebrew. And I mean, if you take it, you put a black spin on it, put a black face on it, more power to you. I don't have no problem with that. We should be doing that. But you shouldn't have to kill us to make your faith live.
Now, we didn't see the whole debate. We saw just the part that Zion Lexx posted up. But we have seen the brother Jabari in a number of other debates. How do you feel his debating style is and skills?
I mean, I'm not gonna bash the brother in public, man. He does a real good job. My thing is he takes on anybody, and that kind of diminishes you. Like what if Ali came out and he went down on 43rd Street, started fighting bums? You know what I'm saying? It diminishes you. You know what I'm saying? You're not. If I go pick on the shortest guy in the crowd and I knock him out. At a certain point, it kind of diminishes you. So I see him. He don't turn down anybody. He'll take on anybody. And at some point, it diminishes you to a certain point. You got to be on. If you're on a certain level, stay on that level, man.
Well, how I would see it, I would say that the brother Jabari, he's a pretty religious guy. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if that's what he do, that's on him. I personally, if you need that for your own personal, spiritual, moral guidance and strength and stuff like that, I don't have a problem with people practicing faith at all. I don't. I think that reviving or practicing classical African religions like Yoruba, Ifa, Voodoo, we need them things because it's us. Right. And anything that we take in that's foreign to us, it's like poison. It don't never work. It's just like on the African independence explosion after World War II. All these African nations now fighting for their independence, right? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't real independence. What it was is flag independence. You supposedly kick off the yoke of your oppressor, and then you form the same type of government that they had when they were ruling you. the two parliaments, the chief executive officer, Supreme Court, all of those things are anti-African. All of their culture, all the things that we've adopted from them are anti-African. And it chokes us spiritually, it kills us, it kills our spirit, our heart, our will to do anything, because we don't think, because we can't look back in history and see a time in history when we ruled ourselves, when we ruled empires, we created civilization, all these things. We can't see that. And so whenever we reach some kind of goal, okay, we always have to adopt what we think is the perfect form of government, which is democracy, and it's not. It's anti-African. And we keep adopting their religion. And like I said, the root of these Abrahamic religions is you are a slave. You at the bottom.
At the bottom.
And so if you start anything with that, you basically poison yourself. So
there it is, then. I appreciate that one.
If you have questions that you would like to ask the streets, contact us at askthestreetsmedia@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe. Hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching.